Today, the Below Average Joe's MMA show presents Don't Cut This Dom, Don't Cut This Dom, the weekend recap. We're talking UFC Vegas 62, along with a list of fight announcements and headlines, including Jon Jones, for maybe the 27th time, is in discussions with the UFC to headline one of their cards. And Colby Covington posing in a photo with Kanye West and Candace Owens. What is going on there? All of this and more, and it all starts right now. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us, episode 241. We're back in the saddle once again to give you guys the recap for UFC Vegas 62. And we got a ton to go over here. Lots of fight announcements, a few headlines, everything in between. I just want to see how my buddy Dominic is doing, though. I apologize on behalf of our show for not giving you guys some content in the preview portion of last week because my business trip to Kearney, Nebraska, unfortunately left me pretty limited on the kind of time I had to even do anything. So we had kind of planned to do a Twitter space, and then I was working way too many hours and had too many plans with corporate heads after work and all this stuff that I had to do. So they just couldn't really find the time. But I know it's been a little bit of a lull. You know, we had a couple weeks really close together with no UFC event. And then you got this kind of week where, you know, I was on this trip to Nebraska. But everything should be locking in as we head towards UFC 280 and then the rest of the year. So, Dominic, how are you feeling knowing that the greener pastures are ahead?
Yeah, it really feels good to be back in. That was the longest we've ever went without being in a studio together in 2 years. So it feels good to be back and see your beautiful face to talk about the sport we love most. And man, you're right. From here on out through the rest of the year, it's like nonstop, and there are some big cards coming up, people, and it starts this weekend with UFC 280. We are even going to get to be together, Noah, to witness that card, and it's going to be a special weekend. So I'm excited. I'm pumped. The content train is going to continue churning now. We're going to get the momentum back going. But first we have to recap, Noah. And also, are you doing well? I mean, you're back from the trip. I know it was a lot of work, like you said, but are you just happy to be back home in the great state of Indiana?
I am. I'm so, the state of Nebraska, if any of our listeners are from Nebraska, I mean this with no disrespect, but fuck your state. Now, I'm sure there's great things there. I didn't see them.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, I can only assume that Kearney, Nebraska is that single plant that I walked around in for 5 days.
Yeah.
And cornfields.
And corn.
Lots
it's
of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying fuck that state as someone who's lived in Ohio for like 23 years. So, and now I've lived in Indiana, which is, I mean, that's at best a lateral move.
Yeah.
That is not an upgrade. So if I'm saying that, you guys need to look yourselves in the mirror and realize you suck. You suck. But it's okay. You're losers, but it's fine. Like, not everybody can be winners.
Right.
We got to have ditch diggers too, you know?
Right. Of course.
Anyways. But no, I'm really glad to be back here with you, Dominic. I've missed you. I mean, we've spent the last couple years talking nearly every day. And this grind of a week I was just on, it felt like I was just like I was almost removed from my reality.
I know, it was like a disconnect.
Yeah, like my sister's birthday was Friday, and like I barely remembered to text her happy birthday just because it was like you just feel like you're in a different world almost when you just have to pick up your life and go to some other part of the country. That's the furthest west I've ever been, by the way. Is that kind of crazy?
I mean, and if it's going to be anywhere, why not Nebraska, right?
But like legit, like I think the furthest west I had been before that was like, and I'm not great with, like, I'm thinking of it by looking at a map, but I guess maps aren't actually accurate to like
Yeah.
um, things like that. But Chicago might be the furthest west I've been
Oh, so you went
before.
significantly further than that. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I had never seen like west,
Yeah. Yeah.
just so it was interesting, but flying, what a hoo ha that was, and
I'd say.
yeah. But I'm glad to be back here, Dom. Let's just keep it at that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I hope I never have to leave again.
Right.
Anyways, you know what? You know who I missed the most while I
Who
was
is
in
that?
Nebraska?
Who's that?
PointsBet Sportsbook.
Tell them why.
Because they're the official betting partner of the Below Average Joe's MMA show. And they have an exclusive offer. That's right. It's still exclusive. It's still for you. You listening, watching right now. You can make good on this offer. 2 ways. If you sign up with PointsBet Sportsbook right now.
Yes.
Right now. There's a link in the description of today's episode. If you go to that link, you sign up on your initial deposit. PointsBet is going to match 100% up to $2,000. It's free money in your pocket to use for your betting purposes. Please bet responsibly, by the way. Also, you can use this offer by just signing up by downloading the PointsBet Sportsbook app. But make sure you use code MMAJOES at sign up. Oh, did I not say that loud enough? Okay. MMA Joe's.
Yeah, nice and clear.
Yeah. So MMA Joe's at sign up, put in your deposit, boom, matches it, you got it. All right. So did I cover all the bases there, Dom?
All bases covered.
Let's get into the main event of UFC Vegas 62, women's flyweights. This was a brand new main event. Neither of these ladies had been in a main event spot before. The lights were shining brightest. Alexa Grasso comes out on top with the unanimous decision victory over Viviane Araujo. I think this fight was fine. Like, I think it was a perfectly fine main event. Not boring, nothing great.
Yeah.
But if anything, it slightly exceeded my expectations in a way. Like, I was not very invested in this fight going in. This was not originally supposed to be a main event. Didn't feel like a main event worthy fight. But I think these two performed admirably considering the circumstances. And Alexa Grasso, once again, that's 4 in a row for her. She gets a big win. And I put the headline as in the mix because Dom, and I put this in the tweet after the fight, I feel like this win has sort of firmly put her in the mix since we really don't know what direction the title shot's going to go. Are they going to run it back? Are they going to, is Valentina going to go fight Amanda? Like, what's going to happen? We don't really know. But I think you have to have Alexa Grasso's in the name of people in the hunt, in the mix, contenders right now. What do you think?
Yeah, you have to, man. I mean, she's on a 4-fight win streak, and it's all been at flyweight. She started as a strawweight, made the move up, and has looked drastically better ever since. And honestly, fight by fight has made improvements. It's very clear as she enters her prime at only 29 years old. And the fight just went how you would expect from like her side of things. She's just a very technical, precise, and patient boxer, and it showed through and through. She had very solid takedown defense. I think defended 6 out of 8. For Viviane, thought she would try to grapple a little more over the course of 5 rounds, but she was not afraid to just stand and trade. She had success. She was definitely like more powerful, but the one shot she would land would be followed by 2, 3, 4 from Alexa that were just peppering her just a tad bit more. And it came down to the output, really, because there wasn't that much damage from either girl in this fight. So it was pretty solid. It was a good performance for Alexa to get a win in her first main event. And again, man, 4-0 at this weight class, I think says a lot. She was number 5. I don't know if she's going to necessarily move up or down. I mean, I'm looking. She's got Andrade, Murphy, Santos, and Chukagian in front of her. And, of course, the champion, Valentina. No, the more that I'm thinking about it now when you're talking about the title contention and whatnot, is it almost odd we haven't heard anything? I mean, when did Valentina and Taylor fight? In June? So we're 4 months removed from that, heading into 5 months in November, and there's not been really a peep of anything. And maybe it does come down to Amanda if Valentina wants to go up and fight her. But you feel like we should hear something by now. I really do wonder what's going to happen in this weight class.
It doesn't surprise me too much. I think there's just a lot of stalling right now. Amanda made it clear after her win over Juliana Pena in July, she was pretty much done for the year. I think it was what she said. She wanted to take some time. Valentine, and maybe some of this is like, maybe there's just a lack of interest in really what Valentina does next. I mean, it was the closest she came to losing her title to Taila Santos. Let's face it, like, people love Valentina, don't get me wrong, but there doesn't seem to be this like clamoring for her and Taylor to run it back, or for her to take on Chukagian again, or take on whoever, because she's really beat everybody.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're not hearing much about the title picture, because there's a lack of interest in any of these contenders to take her on. Like, I think nobody really believes any of these ladies at the top stand much of a chance. And that's going to kind of transition into what I want to talk about, because really the fight was what it was. Like, there's really not a whole lot to kind of get into. You sort of nailed all the points that I could even think of, and I don't want to like copy and reiterate, what you just said. So I think we can talk a little bit about what this means afterwards. I just said Alexa Grasso in the mix now, but realistically, what kind of chances does she have of, I'm not even going to talk about winning a title shot, because I think everybody will just say, oh, if Valentina's there, like, there's no chance. But what are her chances of getting to a title fight? Like, what is her path right now, Dom? Is she one win away? Does she have to win a couple wins? Does it depend how she looks? I mean, there is probably, she does have the kind of look and background of a fighter that the UFC might try to push. She's got that Mexican-born heritage. She is like I guess, what would you call it? Like a typically like pretty girl. So like that's easier to push and whatnot. She's a pretty exciting fighter. Like, she's got good boxing. She was pretty aggressive early in this fight. She's got some good submissions. Like, what is the path for her to even get to a title fight?
I would say one more win. I would say either against probably someone like Lauren Murphy, or maybe Taila Santos if she doesn't get a rematch. And I'm forgetting, and now I'm remembering, of course, that there is a big fight happening at UFC 280. Caitlin Chukagian, number 1. What is she? Number 7? Yeah, number 7, Manon Fior. And if Manon wins that fight, I think she might pass over everybody and get a title fight, being that she's from Paris. She would be, that karate background, the striking background. Her and Valentina is an intriguing fight. So I think really if she wins, she's in the driver's seat to get the next title fight, because it doesn't seem like the rematch between Taylor and Valentina will happen next, which would leave Alexa still there at number 5, probably to fight number 3 or number 2, which is Murphy and Santos. And then should Alexa win, I think that does put her in line. She'd be 5-0 in the weight class, multiple ranked wins in the top 5, top 10. I'd say that's probably the route for Alexa.
And let's also make sure to include that Andrade is not really in this division anymore. Like, she's still ranked, but she went back down to strawweight. So really, Grasso is almost like number 4. I'm still going to say I think she's probably going to end up having to win like twice to get to even get there. Now, what helps her, she's a fresh face. That helps. Yes. Like, she's fresh. But the way things are kind of looking right now, I don't know when the next time this belt is going to be defended.
Yeah.
I think there's a good chance Valentina's next fight will be against Amanda Nunes at 135 pounds. If that's the case, do you do an interim title fight between Taila Santos and Manon Fior, or Caitlin Chukagian, or Alexa Grasso? Maybe. But are people really going to be clamoring for that fight? Are people really going to be dying to buy that fight? Like, I just don't know how you really sell that. So I think what will end up happening is Valentina's likely going to be fighting Amanda Nunes at some point next year, and it may not even be right away. It may be March or April. And then you're talking about not having the women's flyweight title be defended again until about a year from the last time, in June or July or something, which sucks. But in the meantime, that means a lot of these top of the heap, they're going to have to fight to keep their spot. And I don't hate that, only because I don't think anybody's really made a push yet to say I'm the clear front runner. Taylor Santos she was so close that I wouldn't mind if they ran it back. But at the same time, she did lose. So she sort of has to go back to the drawing board. Not, sometimes champions that have multiple title defenses don't get immediate rematches. Why should she, right? She didn't even hold the title. She was the challenger. So I think you're going to see a lot of these top of the heap kind of mix it up. I don't know, and I understand that we really are high on Manon Fior, but I haven't, like, based on her last fight, because she fought in Columbus when we were there.
Yeah.
That was her last fight, I believe.
Yep, Jennifer Maia.
She didn't exactly blow the doors down against Jennifer Maia. I mean, she got the win. Jennifer Maia, tough gal, but she didn't look levels above Jennifer Maia.
Mm-hmm.
So if she wins a equally, I guess, competitive fight with Caitlin Chookagian, I don't know if the U.S. is really going to be all that interested in putting Fior in that shot. I know we're high on Fior, but I'm not necessarily seeing the love elsewhere. Like, I feel like she's one of those gals that we know has a lot of potential, but we're not necessarily seeing the buy-in from the company. So I don't know if I really believe that with the win over Chookagian, she's like a clear front runner, because I think UFC is looking at Amanda, Valentina, and the rest of these women's flyweights are just going to have to mix up their spot for the next year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, and we know that there's a lot of young women coming in the back half of the division too. So, really, by the time the belt does get defended next, this whole entire top 15, top 10 could look drastically different than what it does now, depending on how active all these women stay and how the matchups play out. So, it's an exciting time for the division, but also a disappointing time.
It's a good point, though, because I think even if that sounds pretty shitty that like the title for this weight class may not get defended for another year or a little less than a year, I think what you'll see is there'll be a lot happening in the division outside of the title picture. There's going to be a lot of those young bucks on their way up looking to knock off some of the veterans at the top, or just looking to make their way up. And I do think you're right. It's going to be an exciting division, even though it will be sort of it's going to almost have its legs cut out from underneath a title being inserted into the mix. So it'll be a little bit of give and take, but I do think it'll be exciting nonetheless.
I agree.
So we will move on to some headlines. We'll come back to UFC Vegas 62 in a little bit. Dominic, Jon Jones making the headlines again. And this time it's because the UFC are reportedly interested in having Jon Jones main event the UFC 282 card in December.
Yep.
As far as who that matchup might be, apparently they really wanted to do him versus Francis Ngannou for the heavyweight title. It doesn't look like that'll happen due to Ngannou's injury and also his contract status. So then you got Jon Jones versus Stipe as kind of the next fight that they want to do. Apparently Jon Jones is like all in on this one. That's all I've really heard about it. We've heard this same song and dance a few times since we've done this podcast with Jon Jones. It seems like there's always this mutual interest to be on this card. And then out of nowhere, it's just not happening.
Yeah.
But the question is, Dom, is this finally the time that we get Jon Jones in the octagon? We've heard the same song and dance over and over, but is December going to be the time we get him back?
I hope so. I mean,
no, give me an answer. Yes or no? Yes or no?
The funniest thing, no. But the funniest thing about it is that when our buddy sent the tweet, he said, "How many times has this been tweeted this year?" And I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've seen all day, because I feel like we've seen this thing tweeted, talked about for all of 2022, and not a damn thing has gotten closer to making me believe it's going to happen. So I'm going to say no until I'm proven otherwise, which is unfortunate. because I want to see Jon Jones back in the octagon. No, we've been doing this show since August of 2020. Jon Jones's last fight was February of 2020. We ain't seen him since. And it's so upsetting because I want to see his greatness back in the cage at heavyweight. How's he going to fare with these guys? Whether it be Francis or Stipe. But no. I'm going to say no until the wheels fall off, Noah. What do you think?
Are we really about to flip roles here? Like, am I going to be
Sounds
the
like
optimist for once? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say
hope
yes.
you're right.
Now, the only thing that makes me pause about it is because, okay, it looks like the Ngannou fight is a long shot. But then I'm not hearing a ton of interest from one Stipe Miocic for the even take this fight. I mean,
he's just out there vibing, man.
My man is probably closing down the pool for the summer.
Yep.
He's my man's grilling a little bit here and there when the weather permits. He's a full-time firefighter. Like, I'm not getting the sense that he's like all that invested in doing this.
Right.
But that does open up an interesting fight.
Oh.
Dare I say, the fight that some people have said is the fight to make. Put Ciryl Gane in that main event spot opposite Jon Jones.
Oh, Noah, now you're sending something down in my pants.
And I think, Dominic, I know that you have been kind of riding that bull for a while. You've been on that Ciryl. You've been riding Ciryl Gane.
To put it frank, yeah.
So you have really been like saying like this is the fight to make at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Wow, everybody's talking about it's that classic meme of the dude with the hand over his girlfriend. He's looking behind at the prettier girl.
Yeah.
That's you, hand over Stipe, but you're looking back at Ciryl Gane like, well,
yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
So I think, Dominic, as the days get closer, I think there is a really good chance that that's the fight that ends up getting made. If you made me guess right now, odds, I would say there is a greater chance that Ciryl Gane is in that main event spot opposite Jon Jones than Stipe or Francis Ngannou. I think he's the front runner to get that spot right now.
I do like that sense of the word. And maybe now why I might not agree that it happens December 10th, but I think just in general, Gane is the higher percentage to fight Jon over the other two guys. Stipe is essentially retired without saying that he's retired. It feels that way. Francis is injured, and they don't really know the timeline. It should be relatively soon, like first quarter of 2023, but he still has the contract shit going on. So, like, nothing feels for sure with him, even though I think he really does want to fight Jon Jones. But then there's Ciryl Gane, who just will fight anyone. It seems that way anyways, and this would be the biggest fight of his career. It puts him in a very big spot for legacy, too. So I think that as an opponent, I would agree with that statement. It's just like, we're now under 2 months away from that card date. I'm just, each passing day, even though I don't have hopes because I literally answered no to your question, it just continues to dwindle down even lower than no. So it's upsetting because I want it to happen. I just don't know, man.
Yeah, I get it. Let's get on to the next one. Aspen Ladd, Dominic's favorite women's fighter of all time, has decided to make her next move. She was cut from the UFC. I think we might have acknowledged that on the show. I don't know. Feels like it's been like 2 months ago since that happened. Yeah. But her next move has been made. She is signed with the PFL. And we said that we thought either that or Bellator would be next for her. She goes with the PFL. I'm curious, Dom, what you think of this move. We've been seeing the PFL really swooping in and taking a lot of these UFC veterans. Started with Shane Burgos, then Thiago Santos, and then Marlon Moraes. Now here with Aspen Ladd, maybe trying to rebuild her career. It looks like she'll be competing at the new women's featherweight division that they're implementing. But this move comes off to me like we need some to fight Kayla Harrison, so we're signing Ladd. You seem to really disagree with that when our buddy kind of thought the same thing in the group chat, and I'm curious why that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Kayla's made it pretty clear that she doesn't while she will do a one-off at 145, like we've seen her do with was it Invicta that day? I think it was Invicta.
Yeah, it was
I don't
Invicta.
remember. But she's made it clear that she will not do a full season of 145. She can't fight there 3 or 4 times in a year. So I just don't know what a one-off does for her against Aspen Ladd because if I'm Bellator would be involved, but if I'm the PFL, I'd much rather have a one-off with Chris Cyborg and Kayla Harrison compared to Kayla versus Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd, it seems that I don't want to use this word too strongly, but she's kind of like going to be the face of this new 145-pound division for the PFL for 2023. It does start November 25th because she's going to be fighting Julia Budd on that card. So that's going to give people a good taste of what's to come. I think it's interesting. It makes sense for Julia Budd, too, because she's going back to the weight class she probably should be, which is 145, because she experimented there with 155 in the PFL. So there's your 2 ladies so far. Who else are you going to kind of build around? Who else are you going to bring in for this division? But yeah, I don't see the need to do Aspen Ladd versus Kayla Harrison, but I'm not necessarily like opposed to it. I just think if we're talking like a big fight for Kayla, it's got to be Cyborg instead of Aspen Ladd. So
well, why not both?
Again, unless Cyborg's fighting at 155, that I don't think both happen in 1 year. I don't think Kayla's fighting multiple times at 145. She's made it pretty clear she can't do that with her body multiple times in a year. So if Cyborg comes over, yes, she's made it clear in interviews that
she made it clear that she wouldn't do a full season, but twice a year. That's
half of 4. So I don't know. I don't see her fighting multiple times at 145. So if Cyborg comes over and does 155, and then she does Aspen Ladd at 45, then maybe. But if they're both happening at 45, I'd be really shocked.
Yeah, I never thought her and Chris Cyborg was going to be a 145-pound fight. I figured that'd be 155 pounds. Cyborg struggles to get to 145.
Then that would be a massive year for Kayla, potentially.
Yeah, that's what I think is. I think to me, if Aspen Ladd beats Julia Budd, that's the fight you're getting first. The next pay-per-view or whatever that they do, the start 2023, it'll be Aspen Ladd versus Kayla Harrison. If Julia Budd wins that fight, I think that's probably what they do instead. But I don't see the issue with signing Aspen Ladd for the PFL. It's clear she's a talented fighter, but she just can't make 135 pounds. You have a 145-pound division you're trying to bring in. I think it's a little strong to say she would be the face. I don't see her being the face of really anything right now. But she is a more recognizable name than your average fighter you'll have in this division. So I guess in a way you're kind of on the right track with saying I don't think anybody's really going to be coming into that division because of Aspen Ladd.
No.
But I do think that she'll probably be the most recognizable face. So I guess in a way you're kind of
they're building it around her essentially. I
don't know if I agree with that.
She is the first woman that they're bringing in. So now it's like, okay, who else can we bring in? When I say she's the face, I'm not saying she's like a star for PFL all of a sudden, but she's going to be your woman for 145 pounds, basically.
It kind of comes off a little bit like you're saying she's going to be a star for them.
That's the only way to say it, other than she's
I think they just signed her to be another person in the mix. I don't think she's I don't think she's special.
Well, yeah. I don't even know if she would win their season at 145.
Right.
But she is the woman at the forefront of the division. You have to bring people in behind her. It's not like they had other people there. They said they're building this division the day they signed Aspen Ladd. That's what I'm saying. She's not a superstar, people. It's clear. She's not Kayla Harrison. Noah's smiling at me.
Wow, I didn't realize you were gonna defend Aspen Ladd so hard.
I'm not defending it. I'm just that's there's no other way to say it unless we just say Aspen Ladd signed with the PFL.
That is what I put. That's kind of word for word what I put on here, but
that is actually what he put on the script.
Look, I get it. PFL probably gonna break 1 million pay-per-view buys with Aspen Ladd. main eventing against Julia Budd. I mean,
Right.
we'll keep you guys updated on that one. If Dominic's right, then we can all apologize to him. But if not, then we can laugh.
Of course, they fill that spot November 25th with that fight instead of Eddie Alvarez and who'd we say we wanted him to fight? I forget.
I don't
But
know
we
if
wanted
we
Eddie to
said
come back.
we said Eddie to come back, but you know
Yeah.
what's weird about that, Dom, is like when Eddie, I think he did an interview with Ariel like right after, and he didn't even mention the PFL. He mentioned the UFC and Bellator, but he didn't even mention PFL. So I don't know why. Like to me, like I thought that seemed like too good to be true. Like not too good to be true. I thought that seemed like a great idea, which you had brought up for that to happen,
Yeah.
and then it just. I don't know. Like he didn't even acknowledge him. Really, it
He
was
just
like kind of like
shoots me down without intentionally shooting
It's like,
me down.
dude, really? Like you could. I mean, that feels that to me. That feels like where everybody's going right now. You know.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
But anyways, the last one here, and Dominic insisted that this one be on the show, so I figured I'd put it on here.
Right.
I believe the background for this, and Dominic, if you don't mind, if you want to put up the picture here, so they gotta have some context for what we're talking about.
Okay.
But basically, I guess Candace Owens, renowned conservative voice, I guess is how I'll describe her. She was premiering a documentary. It was like a bit of a red carpet kind of deal. And there's a photo that went around of her, Kanye West, Ray J,
Yeah.
and Colby Covington just chilling on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I guess they all relate, right, from their political point of views, I suppose. I mean, I'm sure that Colby is a big advocate of Candace Owens because he's just a very conservative guy. So I guess they're for support. I didn't really even know the backstory until Noah said that. But it was a weird week for MMA pictures because that one came out and Leon with Andrew Tate. I don't know much about that guy either, but I just know a lot of people talk about him.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, they like came out like within a day of each other. So it was like this week in MMA photos, and it was those two. But yeah, I don't have much to highlight on either one. It was just funny that both came out literally like the same week within a day of each
And
other.
wasn't last Friday, not this past one, the one before when Tucker Carlson did the Fuck It Friday?
Yeah, with Dana White. Yeah.
So they, for a company that we've always given all this praise for being like non-political, boy, did they really seem to take a step in another direction the last week or so.
Yeah.
For the photo, I'm putting money that Colby Covington is the next boyfriend of Kim Kardashian, and here's why.
Oh, wow, this took a turn. Wow.
Because you had Ray J in that photo who hit
An
it
OG.
first.
An OG.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've all seen the tape.
Oh, boy.
And then you got Kanye, who started the family with her,
Yeah.
has multiple kids with her.
Mm-hmm.
All that leaves is Colby.
So you think Kanye was like passing the torch?
I think there was a little bit of a passing the torch. I think Ray J was there. He dapped up Kanye like, "You got this, bro." And
Yeah.
then Kanye dapped up Colby like, "You got this, bro." The sign of approval.
Imagine if this comes to fruition. What a clip this could turn into one day. Wow. Wow.
I'm just saying, if there's a sports book that's taking odds on who Kim Kardashian's next boyfriend's gonna be, move over, Pete Davidson. Colby
Noah's
Covington.
betting the house.
Chaos is coming into town now.
Wow.
Anyways, that's it for headlines. Let's get into some fight announcements.
That was all over the place.
So I'm going to go down the list here, Dom, and then we'll just get your thoughts as a whole from all the fight announcements that have kind of come out over the past. I guess it's a week. It's like I don't know. It's
Week
been
and a
while.
half. Yeah. Yeah.
Frankie Edgar retirement fight versus Gutierrez at UFC 281 and MSG on November 12th. Stephen Thompson, Kevin Holland, main eventing UFC Orlando on December 3rd.
Yeah.
Also on that card, Tuivasa versus Sergei Pavlovich. Then you got Jiri Prochazka versus Glover Teixeira 2. Headline, well, not headlining as of now, but one of
Maybe
the
headlining.
premier fights of UFC 282 on December 12th or 10th. Also on that card, Polish Power, Jan Blachowicz taking on Magomed Ankalaev. I'm sure one of those guys will be the backup fighter for that title fight as well.
Yeah.
And finally, Davison Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno 4 for the men's flyweight title, official for UFC 283 in Brazil on January 21st, our first pay-per-view of 2023. So those are the fight announcements that have been made. I'm just curious, from a top down, what's kind of the one that you're most excited for? It doesn't have to be the biggest fight on here or whatever, but what's just the fight that you're probably the most happy, excited for being made?
Yeah, that's a good one. So you said all these. I had a thumbs up for every one of them. I like all of them. We kind of already talked about Davison and Moreno on the verbal sparring a little. So that's the one I'm probably most excited for. But since we talked about it, I'm going to, emit that one and pick probably Wonder Boy and Kevin Holland, man. I think that's a really intriguing fight. I think it's awesome that they gave him a main event slot. They're traveling again, of course, with a fight night down in Orlando. That's really cool. A match I didn't really see coming, but it gets made, and you're like, all right, I'm kind of here for it. It's really good. Obviously, Wonder Boy's trying to still tread that water in the top 10 there. And Kevin, coming off of that loss to Hamzat Chimaev, buddy, essentially, in a sense, saved a card at the same time. So respect earned for him. I'm glad he's kind of getting rewarded for taking that step and doing it for the company. So no complaints for any of these. Thompson, Holland, that's my favorite one.
I mean, the rumor is he got a bag for taking that fight, too. I don't know if you saw that going around, but they were saying about $800,000 is what he got paid to take that fight. So no wonder that man was talking retirement afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But no, I'm glad that Kevin Holland's not retiring. I don't think anybody really thought he was being that serious, but I think this is a great fight to come back to. Him and Stephen Thompson should be striker v striker here, so you don't, I'm tired of watching Wonder Boy getting like smushed by Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns and stuff, and Kevin Holland getting ragdolled by Hamzat was kind of like, man, like I don't want to see those guys in those kind of fights. So striker v striker here should be fun. I'm going to go with Jan Blachowicz, Magomed Ankalaev. I'm not sure if it'll be the best fight out of all these, but boy, am I just intrigued by that.
Yeah.
Because Jan Blachowicz looked very good from what we saw against Rakic in his last main event spot. Was that May, I think, or so. Magomed Ankalaev has been a wrecking ball for this light heavyweight division. It seems like every fight he's in, whether or not he's like
an actual wrecking ball.
Yeah. Whether or not he's actually laying the damage down, he is pretty much coasting, maybe is the word, at worst, and at best he is a wrecking ball. I mean, the guy looks like a future champion, so I'm very intrigued to see how he does against Jan Blachowicz, who I think is still elite of the elite in this light heavyweight division. And obviously having that underneath Prochazka, Teixeira,
that's great.
Means likely the winners.
Yeah,
we will fight probably towards the tail end of spring or early summer. So I think it's all set up very good. Hopefully it all goes according to plan, because in MMA, when has anything ever gone wrong?
Can I ask you one random question real quick?
Yeah.
Well, not random. It's related. But so we have the rematch with Jiri and Glover, right? And I'm good. Good on them. Fight of the year so far. Glad they're running it back. What do you think, though, like, for Glover? You think win or loss last fight?
He said, though. He said, I don't know what I just said there. He said so.
Okay.
Like, that's what he said. He said after, I think, but that might have been in the post-fight interview after his loss to Prochazka, that he wanted one more fight and then he was going to retire.
Okay.
Now, I have a hard time believing the UFC would give him this title shot, this immediate rematch, if they knew that he was going to retire afterwards. But they have done it before. Remember Dan Henderson fighting Michael Bisping?
Yeah.
They kind of knew that was probably Hendo's last fight. So I do wonder if, like, the plan would be, if Teixeira did get the title back here, that they would try to talk him or coerce him into one more.
Yeah.
And then kind of riding off into the sunset. I don't know, but I I'm going to operate as if this is his last fight until I hear otherwise.
Yeah.
And speaking of last fight, Frankie Edgar taking on Gutierrez, Chris Gutierrez leg kicks. I mean, we saw what happened with Jonathan Martinez on this card, and he is in the same camp as Chris Gutierrez. Gutierrez in his corner, by the way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So for Frankie, man, I like the fight. Like, I think it's a good step back. But God, man, Gutierrez's leg kicks are brutal.
It's no easy
brutal.
fight to go out. That's for damn
No,
sure.
It's really not, and I don't necessarily want easy fights even for a guy, but like, man, it's just like I'm worried he's gonna get butch. Like I'm worried we're gonna see a little bit of what happened with Cub Swanson against Jonathan Martinez, and you just don't want to see that for Frankie at MSG. You know, his last time out there, so we'll see. But I think that's a great fight to add to those prelims there. That card is stacking up.
Oh yeah, that card's insane. Let us know, guys, what your favorite fight is of those.
Yeah, let's get into the rest of UFC Vegas 62. That co-main event I just mentioned, Jonathan Martinez with the leg kick TKO over Cub Swanson came in round 2, 4 minutes 19 in. Jonathan Martinez was essentially my lock for this card. I know we'll get into betting in a little bit. He was a pretty decent favorite, so I had to put him in a parlay, but I was not loving the vibes from Cub Swanson this week. You know, I love Cub Swanson. I mean, I think he is just a treasure. Like, I think he's a great fighter. Even if he never reached the heights of, you know, gold or competing for gold, that dude has been in some of the best fights ever. He's always came just to wreck his opponents. And, you know, I didn't love the vibes this week. I didn't love the not speaking to the media and having like his guy talking. Not that I'm like, when I say I didn't like it, it's not that I was like offended by it. I just didn't think it was sort of Luke Rockhold going on his thing before Paulo Costa fight. Like to me, the vibes weren't great. And then you have the fact that Cub Swanson is making a weight class debut 10 pounds lighter than where he spent his entire career at featherweight. Didn't love that either. And I thought on the scale, I thought he looked very thin. This is a guy who has definitely lost a step, and you're trying to cut 10 pounds to keep that career going. I thought the chin might go. That wasn't really the case, but he did kind of. Jonathan Martinez also, by the way, in of himself, is just a very underrated fighter, very under the radar fighter.
Supremely, yes.
Has looked very good over his last 3 wins. And he came in there, and Cub tried to make it a fight, but Martinez's leg kicks just had him fucked up. And even towards the end of round 1, Cub Swanson kind of got saved by Herb Dean from being stopped. That fight was really close to being stopped right there. Then round 2, the way Cub like kind of rolled over and stuff. I mean, that was like a legit knockout. It felt like it was kind of crazy. But what a win for Jonathan Martinez. I mean, that's 4 in a row, biggest win of his career. He called Nick Cruz afterwards. What do you think of that one?
Ooh, so that I didn't even get to hear. I just got to see the fight itself.
Yeah,
that's an interesting little call out. Probably,
I love it.
I do love it. I respect him for doing it when Dominic's on commentary. That adds definitely some spice to it. I just wonder if Dom would take it. I mean, shit, Dom fought Casey Kenny, so who am I to say he wouldn't fight Jonathan Martinez?
Which is one of the weirdest fight announcements ever.
Yeah. So maybe that is the next fight for Martinez, but I respect it. This win's going to put him on the map. He got a big win over a seasoned veteran in Cub Swanson. He did it in decisive fashion. He looked very good throughout. His left leg is basically a baseball bat, so if you get hit by it, Godspeed, because he kicks you in the face, kicks you in the body, and he takes your fucking leg off as your body as well. So brutal, highly, highly underrated, as Noah said. Jonathan Martinez is a legitimate threat coming into this. He's approaching the top 15, but this division's so deep, it's going to take a while to get in there. But if he fights Dominic Cruz, it all of a sudden doesn't take so long to get in there. So I'd love to see that fight. If Dom takes that, by the way, respect to Dominic Cruz for taking that fight.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe Dom wouldn't take it, but then after the Casey Kenny stuff, like I feel like that would be the kind of fight he would take. And I do think Martinez, he's a soft-spoken guy. He's under the
Hmm.
radar. But I think he's earned a right to show that if he's top 15 in this
Yes.
loaded bantamweight class, he is. I've been so impressed with everything I've seen from Martinez on this win streak he's been on.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyways, also on this main card, this time the veteran gets the upper hand as Rafael Sunsao, who I really didn't think had much left at all, comes in here against Victor Henry, who looked great in his debut back in
Yeah.
January. And he sweeps the cards 30-27s across the board, Dom. Gets the unanimous decision win. I think a Sunsao showed he might have something left in the tank here. I thought this was a great performance from a Sunsao.
Yeah, couldn't have said it any better. Came in with a new team. He was very excited for it, but he needed to win. He had lost 4 in a row, 3 via finish. He was taking a step back here, but Victor Henry, he looked so good against Raoni Barcelos in his debut that I was like, it is a step back, but it might not be too much of a step back. But the seasoned veteran, man, that's what showed here. His skill set was just a little bit better. He was a little bit ahead, and Victor Henry couldn't quite solve the problems that Sunsao was thrown towards his way. So it's just good to first off not see him lose a fifth straight, especially if he were to get finished again, but to just get in there with a new team at 40 years old or nearing 40 and get a win. That's awesome, man. You love to see things like that. Even though it busted a parlay,
Yeah,
it's fine though.
I know that was conflict because it busted one of the parlays on the bet slip, but also I
Yeah.
was like, I couldn't help but feel kind of good for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just see so often that kind of be made, and it's always the young guy gets the win. But here,
Yeah.
he looked great, so
Yes.
good for him.
Yes.
Lastly,
Dude.
flyweight unders have
Oh yeah.
been
Yeah.
just hitting. I mean, the clip is just getting empty at this point from the flyweight unders. Tatsuro Taira submits CJ Vergara minutes
Hey
19
man.
seconds of round two.
Hmm.
I got to give a shout out to our listener Vispian because they have been telling us for months that Tatsuro Taira was a name to watch out for. Back when he was making his debut,
Yeah.
and here he is, just a couple wins in, 22 years old. The way that he was able to get that submission on Vergara, where he had the back and then he transitioned
Dude.
into the armbar, I
Mm.
mean, it was beautiful stuff. So if he can really put that striking together to make him like a very well-rounded fighter, he is a problem for flyweight division. And I know we kind of throw that around a lot, and there's some other guys in this flyweight division that I really like. But I love having a guy like this that could really surge up to the top here soon. And I mean, ready or not, he's gonna be fighting top 15 here soon, even at
Oh
22,
yeah.
because there's not a ton of people in this weight class.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
you
mean,
can't just keep giving him names outside the top 15. You're going to run out. There's only like 20 or 22, 23 fighters on the roster for flyweight.
yeah, 100% Noah nailed it on the head in every aspect. When he debuted and beat Carlos Candelario, I put him immediately on my sheet for our end of the year, like newcomers, because I kind of just keep track of everybody and then dummy it down at the end. And that was through one fight because I just thought he showed how well rounded he was. But then in this one against CJ, slight adversity too, was able to escape some submissions. He looked better on the feet than in his first fight. It's not like it's up to par with his submissions, but it's at least competent enough to pose a threat, not get outclassed on the feet. But then when he's on the ground, what a wizard down there. And that transition, it's crazy how one transition like that shows you just how good someone can be on the ground. That one thing, you're like, holy shit. And also, at only 22, 12-0 from Japan, could maybe begin to lead that charge now for the Asian market. We've talked about the ups and
Mm-hmm.
downs for these young fighters coming in from over there and that market, that region. Tatsuo Taira in a division that's not very deep. He can make noise, and he can make noise very quickly.
That's a very good point. Let's move on to the below average bet slip, which has been on fire over the last few weeks. I
Yeah,
mean,
you're
really,
damn right it has.
it's been quite a grind over this year. Like we've had our struggles, especially me. Really I had been really struggling to put together, a couple good weeks in a row. But since, August or so, it's just not been a different story. Here we go, 5-2 on the day. 2-1 in parlays, 3-1 in singles. Ends up going positive 2.43 units. So for the year, we're positive 8.04. I am officially in the green, personally, and Dom's already been. So we are both in the green for the year.
Love to see it.
And obviously, we don't want to slip up here. Like this card, I only had 2 plays. So I mean, this week it was a long week in Nebraska. I got back on Friday. If I had had more time, I might have had more plays, but really, nothing was just sticking out to me that much. So I kept it small, but I went 2-0. So I feel like that was all that really mattered there. But Dominic, for you, you had the bulk of the plays here. What stood out to you, positive or negative?
So I mean, obviously my single that missed Wright and Todorovic not to start round 2. I mean, holy shit.
My.
It was so close and multiple times, but they did kind of fight a little bit under what I was anticipating. But then in the second round, everything I wanted to happen in the first round happened in the second round. They were just playing rock'em sock'em.
I thought that one had to hurt a little bit because the way they came out in round 2, just immediately swinging and banging, I was like, wow. If only this in round 1, it was all these grappling exchanges and stuff. Yeah, I felt for you there.
So that one hurts. And then my other loss with the parlay down there at the bottom, I don't necessarily regret parlaying that because Joe Anderson was a very big favorite. So him and Victor together was not like very good parlay odds. But part of me is like, if I'm going to do this, why don't I also just do Anderson by finish by itself? Because that was minus 165. I mean, that would have been a solid play to just make a single. And instead I parlayed it and I paid the price because Victor Henry at a minus 410 favorite, by the way, loses Tafael Sunsao. So, I mean, I don't regret parlaying it. I just kind of regret not playing Brito by finish by itself. But what are you going to do? We live to fight another day. I did barely break into the green because I had back-to-back losing weeks. But as a bet slip hole, 4 straight positive weeks. We're approaching double-digit units with, 2.5 months to go in the year. Big things are brewing. Noah's riding hot right now. I'm going to try and take some of that momentum. Not take it, but rub off some of that momentum.
We're not trying to be like Space Jam here.
Right,
he's not trying to take
his
not
powers.
trying to be the Monstars, but no, yeah, that's we're just hitting right now. So hopefully that can continue. I'm not gonna brag. I'm not gonna say anything because then we know how this song and dance can go.
Yes, we do.
With that, I thought it was a good week for us, so I'm happy. But let's move on to the way we end the show around here, Dom. Closing statements. Point of the show where me and Dominic talk about anything and everything, MMA related or not. So Dominic, it's been a while. I hope you came prepared. Do you have any closing statements for this Monday edition?
Okay, so this is going to be a question followed by a bit of a shout out. Because I'm going to first ask, when's the last time anybody, any listeners, any viewers has played laser tag? Because I was in Columbus, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, during the other off week of MMA. I'm all kind of jacked up on when the fights were happening and when they weren't. But it was before Noah left for Nebraska. That weekend is when it was. And was there for my girlfriend's birthday, celebrating her. Shout out to Jaden. And she had always kind of talked this big game. Like, I'm really good at laser tag. I'm not good at a lot of sports and things like that, but I'm really good at laser tag. And I'm like, all right. I mean, that's okay. Keep talking yourself up. We'll see. So we go to laser tag. That's one of the things she wanted to do. Nothing like celebrating your 25th with playing laser tag. Am I right? But boy, oh boy. It was a 27 people game. She got second place and had more than double the amount of points that I scored. And I'll tell you, what a quick way to be humbled, because I sure was. I got my ass whooped. And so I just want to know, does anybody out there play laser tag? Does anybody play it as a hobby? Does anybody play it weekly? I mean, what do you know? I hadn't played in multiple years, but then it was pretty fun. It's always been fun. As a gamer, a video game guy, I always thought it was cool. So Noah, when have you played laser tag last, and what do you think about your skills?
Yeah, I used to do laser tag quite a bit. That is up until I had sex, and then I just didn't care about that anymore. So, so you guys can let your minds run wild with what age that was, but
Yeah.
yeah. In all seriousness, I did play laser tag. I had to go to this like fraternity conference. Um, back, I guess that would have been August of 2019.
Okay.
That was the first time I ever flown in a plane. My second time being this past week going to Nebraska. I flew from Toledo, Ohio to Charlotte, North Carolina. It was for like a weekend conference. A bunch of different chapters are there, and it's like two representatives from each chapter. So it's me and another guy in my chapter, and everybody was like, we were just kind of, they had things scheduled for us like after the conference to like kind of blow off some steam or whatever. And one of the days was laser tag, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. So I was in there.
Yeah.
I mean, there was little kids coming up to me, and I was punting their asses like mini me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I am not good at laser tag. See, this is the sad truth of the matter. Big guy, big target. So
Okay, fair.
the laser tag, not really my game, but it is fun. I mean, I was joking about the whole like then I had sex thing because really it is fun. Like I don't care how old you get. Like I'll fucking beat some little kid's ass to get first place.
It
If
gets
I had been
serious,
playing
isn't it?
if I had been playing Jaden, boom, punt her ass like up into the rafters.
Yes.
I'm competitive like that. No, but I'm trying to think if there's like any other odd like sports that aren't really sports. Like laser tag is like one of those. It's a physical activity. It's
Yeah.
a game.
Right.
I wouldn't really call it a sport necessarily, but I guess you could make a sport out of it. I'm trying to think.
Wonder
if
if there's a
anything
professional
like that. I'm sure there is. That
Probably.
might be something. There's probably something for everything.
Yeah.
They have. You ever seen marble racing?
There's professional marble playing?
Well, I wouldn't call it professional, but there is a
Okay.
channel. I love
Oh.
it, by the way. This guy, like, edits all these videos where he does marble races. So he like,
Wow.
it's almost like Olympic style. So like all these marbles are like the same color, so they're like the same team or whatever.
Ah. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Had many nights where I watched that stuff while, well, not being sober. Let's put it
Right.
that way. So
Right.
as far like I remember, I used to love dodgeball. That was a
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was a classic little gym activity. Mini golf. I hate regular
Ooh.
golf. Regular golf can suck my dick, but mini golf,
Very
that's
fun.
pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm curious, Tom. When's the last time you went mini golfing?
Ooh. I think I did indoor mini golf last year. I think it was at a Scene
Okay.
75, kind of like a Dave and Buster's
Is it
place. I think it
true
was a year ago.
is it true that I've heard that people who like pick up just actual golf actually struggle really hard with mini golf? Like their mini golf game gets worse because of it. Is that true for you?
100%, yeah. And I'm not good at regular golf as it is, but I would say since I've played regular golf, my skills at mini golf have diminished. Yes, I got last place out of 4 people last year when I played, and that was with my grandma, grandpa, and little sister. If that tells you anything, so
Some
yeah.
would say that you were battling for bogey there. So I mean that's cool. But
Yeah, maybe.
I'm Noah Baker. That's Dominic Slee. We are but just two of the below average Joes, and we will see you on the next one.